Artificial intelligence has permanently changed software development. For years, the industry basically relied on simple autocomplete tools. Those basic code suggestions that merely predicted the next word or line you were about to type. But today, we are witnessing a monumental shift. In this explainer, we're going to explore how we're moving away from passive assistance and literally entering an era of autonomous team members. Modern AI can now understand entire projects, fix complex bugs, refactor architecture, and even explain completely convoluted legacy code bases. It is a fundamental documentary-level shift in exactly how we build technology.
8,000. Take just a second to let that number sink in. Imagine it's your first day at a new company. You sit down at your desk, you clone the main repository, and you open up a typical enterprise React application. You are immediately staring at 8,000 interconnected files. We're talking folders within folders, scattered APIs, insanely complex state management, and totally undocumented coding patterns. It's exactly the kind of moment that makes you want to just slowly back away from your keyboard, right? Historically, developers have been forced to navigate this massive, overwhelming maze entirely on their own, spending days just trying to understand the architecture before writing a single line of new code.
Okay, let's dive into this. To show you exactly how we unpack this modern solution to code-based complexity, here's our roadmap. First, the AI coding evolution. Second, meet Claude Code. Third, the agentic workflow loop. Fourth, practical coding examples. Fifth, security and limitations. And finally, the future of development. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. The AI Coding Evolution.
To truly appreciate where we are right now, we really have to establish the historical context. For years, your coding assistant was basically just a glorified spell checker. You had this incredibly tedious, manual workflow, reading docs, searching files, trying to build this mental map of the architecture, and then, finally, guessing your way through writing the code. But look at the new Claude Code paradigm. It actually acts more like a senior engineer. It actively understands the project's context, plans out the work, finds the relevant files entirely on its own, executes the edits, and then verifies the results. It's not just suggesting little snippets anymore. It is actively collaborating with you to solve real problems.
Section 2. Meet Claude Code.
I want to be super clear here. Claude Code is not your traditional chatbot where you're just copying and pasting text back and forth in a web browser. Not at all. It is a deeply integrated, AI-powered coding assistant by Anthropic that interacts directly with your development tools to complete tasks. It was specifically designed to reduce the immense overhead of managing massive modern software projects. Because let's face it, today's applications aren't just one single language in one folder. They contain multiple programming languages, external APIs, databases, configuration files, and cloud services. Claude Code was built from the ground up to understand that entire web of complexity all at once.
And because modern projects are so wildly diverse, this tool has to speak the language of the modern developer. Claude Code supports a massive array of technologies. We're talking Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, C#, Go, Rust, PHP, Ruby, and SQL, and that's just naming a few. It also handles HTML, CSS, Kotlin, and Swift. This extreme versatility means whether you're building some heavy backend microservice in Rust or a sleek front-end interface in React, it is perfectly equipped to jump in and start collaborating with you.
Section 3. The agentic workflow loop.
Now we're looking under the hood to see how this engine actually works. The word agentic simply means the AI operates with a real degree of autonomy. Here is how that iterative loop breaks down into 4 simple steps. Think of it kind of like a master chef in a kitchen. First, the chef understands the request. They're reading the recipe and figuring out exactly what the customer wants. Second, they create a plan, gathering the right ingredients from the pantry, which in our case means exploring the entire codebase for context. Third, they execute, cooking the meal, or for us, editing the files and running terminal commands. And finally, step 4, they review the results, tasting the dish before it goes out, or running tests and validations. If it needs a little more salt or maybe a quick bug fix, the loop just repeats until the task is perfectly complete.
Section 4. Practical coding examples.
So, moving from theory to practice, how does this chef actually cook? For both seasoned developers and absolute beginners checking out this explainer, let's see exactly what this looks like in the real world. Let's go right back to that daunting 8,000-file React app we talked about at the beginning. Instead of spending 3 agonizing days reading code, you just open your terminal and type a bold command, explain this project architecture. And within minutes, Claude Code reads the entire repository. It identifies the technologies used, maps out the overall project structure, highlights the absolute most important modules,
and breaks down the dependencies and coding patterns. It literally turns an overwhelming maze into a clear, understandable map.
Or let's say you have a much more complex, hands-on task. You can give it a powerful command like optimize SQL queries and add authentication. Claude Code will actively search through thousands of files, find exactly where your database queries are lagging, rewrite them for efficiency, and then systematically build out a secure login page. It can refactor components, generate unit tests, create APIs, and even review your pull requests. It handles the absolute heavy lifting so you can actually step back and focus on the bigger picture.
And what's really interesting here is how easily this integrates into your existing habits. You don't have to learn a completely new platform. Claude Code is available right where you already work, directly in your terminal command line interface, seamlessly inside VS Code or JetBrains IDEs, as a standalone desktop application, or even via the browser. Plus, it fully supports Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It literally meets you exactly where you are.
Section 5. Security and Limitations.
Of course, it's time for a quick reality check. While autonomous AI is absolutely revolutionary, it is not flawless. We really have to balance its incredible reasoning and multi-file editing capabilities with the reality that it can still make mistakes. On the strength side, yes, it understands massive code bases, automates terminal workflows, and edits multiple files beautifully. But look at the limitations. It might generate an inefficient solution if it happens to misinterpret a highly complex system. Furthermore, its performance heavily depends on the quality of your prompt. If you give it vague instructions, you are going to get vague code. And most importantly, it absolutely requires human oversight.
Which leads us directly to our most critical security protocols. Claude Code works with your local project and it can execute terminal commands, but some tasks absolutely require your explicit approval before execution. You must review all changes locally before accepting them. Remember, Anthropic designed this to collaborate with developers, not replace them. You are always the final gatekeeper. Furthermore, you must never expose sensitive credentials, things like API keys or production database passwords, to the AI assistant. Vigilant review is completely crucial here.
Section 6. The Future of Development.
Pivoting toward the horizon for a second, Anthropic is already expanding way beyond basic code generation. If we trace the overarching timeline of this evolution, the trajectory is honestly breathtaking. In the past, during the 2010s, we had simple autocomplete. In the present, the 2020s, we've unlocked these agentic workflows where AI can actually plan and execute multi-file tasks. Looking to the future, the 2030s point toward complete autonomous engineering. We're looking at a future with autonomous debugging, intelligent infrastructure management, continuous code review, and complete feature implementation, all happening right alongside human guidance.
So to summarize the core value proposition of what we've covered today, it really all comes down to this single quote. Instead of simply generating code, it understands projects, plans tasks, executes actions, and verifies its work. For developers, this shift ultimately means spending drastically less time on repetitive, tedious work and much more time solving meaningful, creative problems. It empowers you to build better software and do it faster.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to end on. Are we actually entering the era of autonomous engineers? Well, the evidence from tools like Claude Code strongly suggests yes. The very nature of programming is fundamentally changing right before our eyes. But Claude Code isn't the only major player shaping this incredible new landscape. How do the other big tools stack up in this new era? Well, that is exactly what we're going to explore next. Be sure to join us in our next explainer, where we will dive deep into GitHub Copilot to see how it approaches this exact same challenge. You definitely won't want to miss it.